You're listening to Whispers of War.
Hello everyone and welcome to Whispers of War, show number 20. As you might hear, I'm a little bit husky, hence why, I couldn't release anything yesterday, because I got another cold. We went to the pantomime, and I think all the people in such a, not even like a small room, but like a room with no ventilation and lots of kids who were coughing and sneezing. I knew it was going to happen. So both me and the boyfriend have got the lurgies at the moment. So I'm sounding a little bit deep, but at least I could still, do a bit of interviews and everything. I just sound weird. Anyhow, being off for a week, I did jump into World of Warcraft for the times that I wasn't dying in bed. But what have I been doing? Well, just to immediately jump into it, I have leveled my druid on Alliance side a little bit more. She's now 116. And I do need to do the time walking, because that's up now for this week, and I want to get badges, because I actually checked with the whole reputation thing, and she is actually revered with the Pandaren fishing team group, whatever it is. So with that faction, she's revered. So I'm like, okay, well, that's not very far from Exalted, and then I get that water walking mount, the water strider, the red one, and I'm like, actually that would help a lot, because there are so many quests, even with dailies that you have to do, world quest, that you have to walk over water or swim in my case, and it just takes extra time. So I might as well just go for it and just save up all these badges until I can get the whole Pandaria reputation fishing tokens, I guess. So that's my next goal on her, to start doing some time walking dungeons, but I think it's Cataclysm, and I fucking hate Cataclysm dungeons. So we'll just have to see what I get, and I don't really have a choice, I guess, but maybe it will still give me a lot of experience, which would also help. So, it's kind of like a win-win minus the whole Cataclysm, but oh well. Something else that I did, I leveled a little bit on my Void Elf War. I've been very Alliance heavy this week. I've leveled a little bit on my Void Elf Warlock. So she was 41, she's now, I think, 50 something. It really did go a lot quicker, I have to say that. And that's not even hitting level 60 yet. So it has gone so much quicker, and I'm enjoying it, Warlock. But I don't think it is really the spec for me, or the class for me. I'm not enjoying it as much as I, for instance, do with the Druid or the Rogue. And I don't know what that is. I find it not easy, but it doesn't have a lot of challenge to it. I don't find it very dynamic, doing that. So I'm not quite sure if Warlock is for me, but I do want to level her up, because, Void Elves. The other one, however, that actually did surprise me again was I jumped on my Void Elf Warrior, and mind you, I have a level 80 something Warrior Troll, but I thought, I'll level my Void Elf Warrior a little bit, and I am really enjoying it. So she started off as level 50, I think it was 50 or something, and as soon as I hit 60, I actually went to Outland. And I know that a lot of people go, why? Why did you go to Outland? Why did you not do Northrend? And the reason for that is because I play with War Mode on, and it gives, for Alliance on this server, 30% extra experience. And I thought, you know what? Where's the place that almost no one will go? Outland. I think people will go quicker to Northrend to level than Outland. So I thought, I'm just going to go to Outland, and I'm just going to see how far I can get. I mean, I can hold my own as a warrior anyway in PvP, and if I start getting ganked, then I'll just jump on something else. It's not the worst. And it just went super quick. I leveled 10 levels in a few hours. It was ridiculous, and that was me doing it quite slowly because I was doing other things in between. And I really am enjoying it. I really like the warrior. I play Fury. I've heard that Arms is actually better, but I am really enjoying him, being Fury. So, yeah, I think this warrior could potentially become a new favorite of mine, which is going to be a little bit difficult. But, tackling all these alts, like always. I've started to enjoy Void Elves a lot more than I thought I would, because I remember when they first came out, or the idea of Void Elves came along, and I just thought, that's so lame. Why would I ever want to play a Void Elf when you can just play a Blood Elf? But there's something about the color scheme and seeing their Void form come out that I really am digging. I'm starting to really enjoy them. So yeah, I think I might have been converted on them, actually. I'm now this far that I'm actually starting to consider if I want to still main Horde or if I want to switch back to Alliance. And that is a very big thing for me, because I basically told myself, now you're staying Horde now, because, again, trolls are my favorite race. They really are. And this might all change once we get the Zandalari as a playable race, but at the moment I'm leaning more and more towards Alliance, and I think it has to do with the guild I'm in, because the guild I'm in is so friendly, and it's just nice seeing people that when you log in and you say hello, that people actually say hello back, and that you just get, this is the first guild that when some people talk, and as a newbie you actually join into the conversation, they don't shun you. They actually can, they embrace you in that conversation, and it's all so friendly, and that was really nice. And I'm tempted to start raiding with them. I don't know if they accept raiders, but a part of me is really tempted to actually do my best to gear and learn everything about the class that I'm playing. So either it's going to be that warrior, or it's going to be my druid. Unless, I should find something else. If you guys say, no, you want a good class for raiding heroics or mythics, then this is the class you need, because like I said, I haven't raided in forever, not since Wrath, I would say, so I really need some advice on that. But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying being around these people, and that's good. It's nice. It's very a live guild. It's not like a massive guild, but it's fine. I quite enjoy the personalities of these members. Now, remember a few weeks ago that I said about this Torn Death Knight, who said, okay, after January I'll put you for an invite. So that actually happened, and I recognized his guild name because he prodded me on a different character, and I thought, well, yeah, why not, but, and this might be me being completely out of the loop, so, correct me if I'm wrong. I'll foresee all the PMs and emails, but what I'm really surprised about is when I asked, okay, so how many days do you raid? Okay, they raid 3 evenings a week. Fair enough. Like I said, last time I had a little bit of trepidation because of the whole, okay, it's 3 nights that I have to be completely ready for work the next day. And I said, so how many of those nights are mandatory? And he said, every. And I'm a little bit like, I remember back in my old guilds that you only had to attend 2 out of 3 at least, if you could be there for all of them, that was great, but it was very much more relaxed about the whole, okay, well, at least more evenings than not. So that took me a little bit aback. I went like, all right, so it's already going to be this week, and then you have to go on Discord, you have to read the intro thing and then whisper them with, some information that you've read there, which is fine. I did that. But then this morning I log in and I was already like umming and ahhing if this was the right decision for me, because, like I said, if I can raid, I'd rather do it with the Alliance Guild now, because they seem a little bit friendlier. And I sort of made my mind up this morning, because I went in and the first message I saw that was posted in guild chat was, and this wasn't aimed to me because I wasn't on, but this was done early in this morning as a message. raiding starts next week, mandatory, and if you don't show up, you'll be fucking kicked. It actually said, you'll be fucking kicked. And then the next message was someone else, I think, doing a little bit of damage control, but it was another weird post saying, oh, don't mind him, he's a bit grumpy, but yeah, trials, you have to be there, and if you're not going to be at the mandatory raid times, it will be bye-bye. And I thought, that is so fucking, I don't know, it's almost a little bit like toxic with how it's being brought. And I am on their Discord and I looked at some of the posts, and in all fairness, I don't want to judge them because I don't really know these people, but looking at them and their posts, I don't think these are the kind of people that I would mesh with really well. So I think for me, it's just best not to do it. So yeah, I could play it like the whole, I'm not logging in on the raid times and I'll just get kicked. Or I just leave and I'll just say that I'm going to focus more on raiding with my alliance team. Probably them them being really toxic back to me. I don't know, but I don't get a good feeling from this guild fight, if that makes any sense. I know it sounds weird, but yeah, when you get that gut feeling that this is not the right fit, I just don't think that they are the right fit for me. I think I'm a bit too old for this kind of behavior, and it's just not my kind of guild. So I don't know. Raiding starts on Thursday, so we shall see, or Wednesday actually, so we shall see if I've been kicked by then or if I fled. I don't know. But again, if you have any tips on how to handle this, I don't want to do like what happened with Taliesin and Evertel, that people left during their raids. I don't want to do that. I don't want to G-quit during a raid. I don't think that's nice. Like I said, I don't want to judge these people. I don't know them that well. It might just be something that I'm reading into, but for me, I just get not a vibe that I like. So, yeah. Yes, so I don't know what to do. Maybe I should be like a rogue and stealthily leave or something. I don't know. So, anyway, let's go to something much, much more fun than toxic guilds, and that is an interview with the wonderful guys from Halfhill Report. And I will get back to you after the interview.
Today, I am joined by not one, but two people, which is going to be interesting to see what happens to my recording, because, everything is new when it comes to recording with multiple people, but I'm so happy that I have them, and I'm going to probably butcher their names. I have Toshi and Taliep.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Sil.
Hello. How are you? Did I butcher your names completely?
I've heard worse.
I think you did them perfectly.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So let's just jump into the interview. And I have to say now, I know that people on the podcast can't see anything, but you guys, I give all of my guests, I give them the questions beforehand so that, nothing gets really sprung on them. Most of the times, at least. But you guys have taken it to a new level by just putting all your answers down and, making a nice document. And I am just in awe with the amount of work that you guys have put in. So you're already getting so many stars and cookies from me. So let's start with this first question. Tell the listeners about yourself if the people at home don't know who you are.
This is Taliep. I play Panda on Wormrest Horde and live in Halfhill. I also live in the Pacific Northwest in the United States. I'm a sociologist by trade and a dog trainer for fun. Been doing dog training for about 30 years, so I think I'm pretty good at it. WoW is the first and only AA game I've ever played. I've never been much of a gamer, but I really love playing WoW. I've been playing since, I think, 2009. And I think I started during Cataclysm because I vaguely remember being killed by Deathwing when I was fairly new.
That would be it, yeah.
Yeah, but I didn't know anything about expansions or anything like that, so I didn't know enough to, know where I was and where I started. Anyway, I'll talk more about my starting process later. Toshi and I have been playing together for about 6 years, and we live in different states. So that was mainly how we spend our time together, that and doing the podcast. We also watch movies and play some other little games, but WoW is our main interaction.
It's lovely.
My turn, I guess.
Yes.
Hi, Toshmifune here from the Halfhill Report. So I live in a state of confusion. Actually, I live in the state of Arizona. And as I look out my back window right now, sitting here at my microphone, I'm looking out at a desert landscape covered in snow, which is very, very unusual for us. 2 days in a row, we've gotten snow. So it is, I've lived in the desert for 25 years. I think if I go outside right now, I'll die. So I'm very happy to be on the show. In my so-called real life, I'm a father of 2 wonderful adult children and grandfather of one 11-month-old. I've been playing, as Taliep said, I've been playing WoW for about 6 years. My main involvement, I'm also a Pandaren, Alliance Pandaren hunter. Don't judge me. And along with Professor Taliep, I'm the host and co-creator of the Halfhill Report. It's a fictitious radio broadcast originating from the village of Halfhill in beautiful Pandaria. We have started branding it at about the middle of this year as a small town view of a very large world. And that pretty much means exactly what it sounds like. This is a college radio station. Toshmifune is the only journalism major at Halfhill Agricultural College. And there's a whole backstory behind that. But Professor Taliep is his faculty advisor. That she took him on rather reluctantly, but she took him on, and he does a radio broadcast giving a small town perspective on the goings on in Azeroth. And on a weekly basis, we have guests, a cast of characters who travel outside of Halfhill and Pandaria for the purpose of bringing the larger stories home. We have Eamon Wetbranch, who is our dwarven reporter who is currently deployed with the 7th Legion in Darkshore. We have who's rapidly became everybody's favorite character on the show, Velmic, a Draenei food and lodging critic who reviews inns and has his own story, and Rizak, which Taliep will talk about a little later. And we've been doing that about a year, and it's a ton of fun.
It's such I love listening to the podcast because it's something completely different. I like, for me, it sounds really unique because it's a completely different sort of World of Warcraft podcast than that has been there. There was something similar in the past, which was very much focused on RP. And I think it was called, if I remember well, Hearthstone Tavern with Star Dancer. And I absolutely loved that one. But they did a little bit of a scene play in the beginning. And it reminded me a lot of that. And it brought back a lot of nostalgia for me, but I absolutely adore it. And the fact that, I listened to your last one and there were so many voices in that, and I can only imagine how much prep work and editing and, like I said before the interview, my hat's off to you guys because there is a lot of work that goes into that. So yeah, it's definitely one that you need to listen to.
If you have time, you should listen to the one prior to that, which kind of wraps up a lot of the stories for the year. It would give you a good overview of a bigger picture of all the characters and how they got there.
Mm-hmm.
They're short, only about 20. That one's about 17 minutes.
The average podcast is about 15 minutes. The Winter Veil party episode was only 6 minutes. And by the way, special shout out to the guest star on the show, Alejandros, the host of Dungeon Fables. did the voice of Daolin and Alice, the little girl. So special shout out to Alejandras and Dungeon Fables for doing her cameo on the show.
That was really cool. And in all fairness, it's everyone, you can download them from the beginning and just start listening to them, because like you said, it's not like they're an hour long each. You can easily like catch up. So definitely start downloading them. Before we talk more about the podcast, you've already said it a little bit that you play Pandaren and Alliance. Why Alliance?
Well, for me, when I first started playing, and we'll talk about the origin, our kind of origin stories in the game in a minute. But when I first started playing, I was like, well, I'm kind of lawful good in real life, right? I should play Alliance because those are the good guys. But as I've gotten deeper into the lore of the game over the years, I've really come to understand that so much of the Horde story, not just the orcs, but the entirety of the Horde, is so much about refugee stories and really kind of tragic circumstances that I'm much more sympathetic to the Horde, and I we do play Horde alts. But of all the Horde races, I would say I'm as much fun as I have voicing Rizak. My favorite Horde alt is a Tauren, Ret Pali Tauren named Maweth, because I feel like most spiritually connected, emotionally and spiritually connected to the Taurens.
He's a very reluctant paladin too.
He's grumpy. Okay, let's call him. He's a grumpy paladin. All right.
Fun for me to play with.
And what about you?
So Toshi and I play Alliance, and I love Taliep as a character, and especially since she's become Professor Taliep. But I actually have a fondness for the Horde. Most of the characters I play on my own are Horde. I'm not so sure I'm lawful good. I think I'm more like chaotic neutral. So.
Oh, so am I. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But basically, I really like to see both sides of the story. I feel like I'm missing out on half of it if I don't play both sides, particularly in this expansion. But even earlier, it made a difference where you start. And so I've sort of always played both sides. Okay. But if I had to pick, it would be Horde.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
Ooh,
I always
house divided. This is discovery time for me. We've known each other for a very long time, and this is the first time I've ever heard her articulate, if I had to choose one or the other, it would be Horde.
But then you should be honored that she went Alliance with a Pandaren.
I feel like I need to reevaluate some things, quite frankly.
Oh, I'm in trouble now.
Oh dear. Swiftly moving on from that then. You both said that you started about 6 years ago, Cat of Time. How would you say that you started your love for World of Warcraft?
Well, I have kind of a little story about that, which I will try to make brief. I was playing, I had never played a computer game before in my life. I've never been a gamer. The closest I had come was my sister is a gamer of all sorts. And I watched her play Tetris quite a bit. And that was sort of my experience with computer gaming. But I did get into Second Life. I had a neighbor, and she got me into that. And so I was playing in Second Life. And I had made a group of friends. And one night somebody said, I'm sort of tired of what we're doing here. Let's go play World of Warcraft. And everybody said, yeah, let's go do that. And so I said, okay, I'll trail along with you. But somehow, because I didn't know anything, when I signed up, I got myself mixed up, and I got signed onto a European server rather than I or anything. I didn't know anything about servers, and somehow a European server. And by the time I got that sorted out, which took a week or so, they'd already started playing, made characters and moved ahead and were like, level 10 or level 20. But I thought, well, what the heck? I'll play and I'll, catch up with them. So of course I made a night elf druid. No, mage, a night elf mage. And I started poking around in the night elf starter area. And like I said, I didn't know anything. I figured out, you got the quests, and then I would go running around at random until I ran into whatever it was I was supposed to do, and I would do it. And then I would run around at random until I finally got back to the quest giver. And I had no idea how to use the maps or the action bar or anything at all. And I have no idea why I stuck with it, because of course I had killed over and over and over because I, kept running into all of these things that killed me. And finally, one of the people in the group took pity on me and came and took me into Darnassus. And I said, this is it. I'm staying here in Darnassus. Nobody kills me here. And they said, no, you have to go do this. And so they took me out and they sort of taught me enough to get me oriented and going after, I don't know, it was several weeks into the game. And I don't know why I stuck with it, but I did. And I just kept playing it. And, I've really developed a deep love for it. And now I understand all those things.
That's a good thing.
Well, for me, it's Taliep mentioned she, her entry into these types of environments was via the virtual world Second Life. Taliep and I actually met in a similar grid called InWorlds. We met each other there, and I was a content creator there. I would build environments and buildings, and I recreated the set of It's a Wonderful Life. That was my big project. And she and I got to know each other. And she was, of course, already playing Warcraft at that time. And she told me, she said, hey, you should come look at this game because I think you'll be fascinated by the environments and the visuals and the graphics, because I was using much more primitive, amateur versions of the tools that they use to create the environments in Warcraft. Mm-hmm. And I had some experience in gaming, both console gaming and computer gaming. So, but she brought me over, and I fell in love almost instantaneously, despite the fact that she tried to take me as a level 6 player down to Booty Bay. And I kept getting ganked by the game, and I didn't know how to ghost walk, and I kept getting killed, and I didn't understand what was going on. Why do I keep getting killed? And she thought I was never going to come back, but I fell in love.
I kept yelling at him, don't believe, come to me, or don't accept, come to me, don't accept, come to me.
and oh my God, I was just furious. This is the dumbest game I've ever seen. I can't even, I can't get to any place safe, but I got over that experience, and still my favorite part of the game is the visuals, the auditory environments, and the stories. I am first and foremost a storyteller and a writer, and that and the community has really what has sustained my love for the game.
That's really good to hear. This is going back onto that, because I know that Wyrmrest Accord is one of the bigger roleplay servers, isn't it? Is that a reason, because story is so important, that you moved to a roleplay server?
No, that's where my SL friends were playing, so I just wound up on Wyrmrest Accord by accident.
So we've entertained the idea of getting into into the RP guilds, mm-hmm. But I've never really. We have so much fun just doing, PvE. We're primarily PvE and quest players, that we've never never really actively pursued with any seriousness any of the RP groups. It's not something I'm sure we would enjoy the heck out of it if we did. It's just not something we've ever actively pursued.
Yeah. I do a little, with all my horde characters are in RP guilds, and when I play them, I dabble in RP, or if I happen to run across this situation anywhere, because all of my characters have backstories in my head, and so if I happen to run across a situation, I will do a little RP, but I've never done it very seriously.
Okay. I'm just putting it out there. 2019 can have new goals in game.
Yes, because you're a role player, aren't you?
I am a dirty role player. I am.
Really?
Yeah, I just remembered that.
Yeah, I think
that's a conversation for another podcast, isn't it?
No. Wait a second. I want to hear more.
I used to role play a lot. I picked it up again today. Actually, I joined a new storyline with someone that I met in game, and it just brings your character, like it gives your character a little bit more. It fleshes them out, if that is the right way of describing it, because you have to think about backgrounds and how they would respond to certain things. And for me personally, that makes playing them and leveling them or doing whatever I have to do with them just a little bit more fun, because I know that there's a story that's also going on with her. So, I get quite invested into the characters.
Yeah, I had experience just the other day. I got to that point in a storyline with my goblin, where she has to choose between Sylvanas and Sourfang. And, she just sort of automatically chooses. The choice was made for me because her choice would be Sylvanas. Mm-hmm. There's no profit at Sourfang.
And that already is like role-playing, that you just think of what would my character do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the things that I personally love in this game. And I think that's, I don't know. It's almost a bit going back to your childhood, I guess, and just pretending you're playing mom or dad, or things like.
Well, one of the things we're exploring and exploring rather seriously at this point is having guests on the show that are experienced RPers, or possibly even experienced improv actors, to come on the show as their character and be interviewed by Toshi, by me, in character. And
that's really cool.
So that is an opportunity for people who feel comfortable RPing, into a microphone as opposed to typing in text.
Yeah.
And so throw that out there.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to tentatively hold my hand up just in case. But I know there are many skilled RPers out there who, there are so many people who also do amazing voice acting. And so there is so much talent out there.
Well, we would love to have you come and do it if you think you would enjoy that. So let's talk about that.
From my point of view speaking, I would love to. That would be amazing. So I think everyone else who hears this, just, this is an opportunity, guys. So you know what to do.
Yeah. We're still working out the details. We aren't quite ready to start it yet, but as soon as we are.
I think it's a brilliant idea. That sounds really, really cool. I absolutely love that. Right. So let's talk about this whole podcasting thing then, because, I always ask my guests, what sort of topic do you want to talk about? Because, for instance, you can't talk to, if someone would go to me and say, oh, so we want you on the show. We're talking about PvP. I'll be like, no, I can't really talk much about it. So I always let the guests pick their topic. And for you guys, you wanted to talk about your first year as podcasters, the podcast community, the tech skills that you need for it, the plans for 2019, because I bet there are so many people out there who would want to start a podcast but how do you start? And, how does creativity work? So I'm going to give this topic completely to you guys. And, if there's anything that as I'm not going to say I'm an experienced podcaster, but I guess I have a little bit of experience podcasting.
Yeah.
A little more than we do. Yeah.
A lot more than we do.
Yeah, but I don't know if I'm that professional, though, in all fairness. But yeah, then, if you guys want to kick it off.
So Taliep and I talked about this. She's going to let me lead out on this topic. First of all, the amazing thing about podcasting is, like so much content creation out there in the world today, there are no gatekeepers. Two of my favorite podcasters, Kevin Smith and Chris Hardwick, both say, look, just go make a thing. Mm-hmm. Go do it. There are no gatekeepers. Get a microphone, get a computer connection, and it's you can get in for a very, very modest investment. And if you've got something you're passionate about, and that's really the key, it's got to be something you're passionate about that's going to be that you're going to have fun doing, then just go do it. The tech skills, the community is, I'm all over the place in terms of topics here, but the community is so amazingly supportive. We were stunned, very, very surprised at how open and supportive the community, the podcast community, especially the Blizzard podcast community, is of new podcasts. It doesn't appear to be a competitive market that where people are saying, "Oh, I can't, I gotta crush the competition. I gotta, not tell anybody about this new podcast because it'll steal listeners from me." It's not that at all. As a matter of fact, people have been more than generous and more than helpful in terms of both technical advice, giving our show airtime and giving it reviews and supporting it on social media. So it's wonderful. It is wonderful to have that kind of support, because I don't know that it would be quite as much fun otherwise. In terms of the technical skills, look, if you've got a microphone and a computer, or a microphone and a smartphone, you can put together a podcast. Mm-hmm. If you know how to talk, which I only partially know how to do, apparently, then you can do a podcast. The technical skills of sound editing, well, on a show like ours, where we've got multiple voice tracks, and background music and bumpers and things like that, that's something that you can pick up. And there's, just like anything else in the world, there's a million YouTube toots out there that you can go. I happen to use Audacity for recording our podcast, and that is a free and very easy to use, very intuitive sound editing program. The biggest thing that I work with on a week-to-week basis, and Taliep laughs at me because she says you're the only one that hears it, is breathing and microphone discipline. Sometimes when I listen to myself on when I go and edit and listen to the show, I thought, good grief, I sound like I have emphysema. What the heck is going on? Why? The breathing is just awful. But that's just how I talk, and I just leave it as natural to me. So I haven't gone in and made any crazy efforts to edit that out. And as far as starting a podcast goes, inspiration, whether it's, Blizzard Gaming or anything else, if you're going to do a weekly podcast, and are going to be consistent in your output, it's got to be something that you enjoy, that is fun for you, that you're passionate about. And because it is work, especially if you're going to do a scripted show like ours, where not only is there the time to record and edit and release, and market it on social media. But then there's writing the script, and that's a lot of work. So if you have to have something, it has to be something that you enjoy. And we enjoy the heck out of bringing the village of Halfhill and the characters on the Halfhill Report to life for people, and people seem to enjoy it just about a year in.
Absolutely. And I think that enjoyment in doing it is very important, because I don't think you can properly fake it. I think people can hear it. And from my point of view, what I've always noticed is that if you have an off day, but you still want to put something out, it is always best policy to be upfront with people, because listeners aren't stupid. They can hear if you sound different, or if there's a little bit less gusto in how you bring a podcast. It's, and I think you sometimes owe it to the listeners as well, just to play open card with them, and just, doing something that you really enjoy, and having subjects that that you can talk about for a lot and that you're passionate about. That will help. It will make you even more enthusiastic talking on your podcast, because I do think that's very important. And I think you can hear it with certain podcasts. I'm not going to name any podcasts, because that's not how I am, but I could hear with certain podcasts when they weren't enjoying it anymore. And I had that with my own, years ago. I could hear myself not being happy anymore, and that it just doesn't work. And I don't think it's bad for people sometimes to take a break then. Because especially when it's WoW orientated, sometimes you do need a bit of a break.
Oh yeah, Taliep and I have talked a lot of times, and as far as I'm concerned, we're nowhere close to that. But we did say that we would only do this podcast as long as it was fun. We kind of feel the same way about questing and Warcraft. Excuse me. And various activities in the game. It's a game. Mm-hmm. It's supposed to be fun. And at the point that you stop having fun and you get frustrated, you get angry or whatever, you stop and come back later. And we've said that we'll do the Halfhill Report as long as it's fun. And so far it's fun. And I think that's really the key for anybody who's thinking about starting a podcast. And don't go into it for the fame. Don't go into it for the money, because goodness knows neither of those things are going to come. Do it, and look, the first time you get a couple of listeners, it's tremendously exciting. It's really, really exciting. And then when you realize, whatever your listenership is, I mean, the Halfhill Report is a very small niche. It's kind of for a niche market, right? Mm-hmm. This is not, doesn't have the kind of contents of something like The Instance or Azeroth Roundtable, or a show like, those kind of mega tentpole kind of shows. It's for people who are looking for something something a little different. And we're happy with that. We're happy with that market. As far as plans go, well, we've already touched on that a little bit. We're interested in bringing experienced RPers and improv people who are comfortable in front of a mic to do that. And I think that's going to add a very interesting dimension to the show, in addition to extending out the story arcs that, and for those that haven't listened, there are story arcs involving the characters that some of them are only 2 or 3 episodes long. Some of them have been going on for almost as long as the show's been going. So keeping those story arcs going, and adding new ones and possibly even new characters. I'm the voice talent on the show. I do most of the voices that, in extending out those characters. So I've yapped enough. Taliep.
The main thing I wanted to say was that I'm still sort of astonished by the fact that I'm doing a podcast. That was not ever something that I thought about doing. It never would have occurred to me in a million years. I've been listening to podcasts for quite a while now. In fact, I listened to Girls Gone Wow when you were still on that podcast. So I've been a long time listener. But it just, isn't part of my mindset to be doing that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So
always warms my heart when people mention Girls Gone Wow.
Yeah, still my favorite podcast after Halfhill, of course.
Of course.
I was going to say, hang on a second.
Yeah, of course. The thing that I've enjoyed the most about it is that we've met so many interesting people, and as Toshi said, everyone has been so kind about being helpful and encouraging us, and talking about the show. And the other part I really like is the writing. I've always done a certain amount of writing, both in professionally and in my personal life, and this really gives me a chance to do little very short stories that particularly for our goblin correspondent Rizhak. He's based on my horde character Zerba, who's actually a female, but Tashi can't do female voices, so and I can't do goblin voices, so he turned out to be a male. But I guess I just know her so well that whenever I find a topic to write about, that it just sort of comes out. And that's been a lot of fun doing that writing. And then also, of course, creating Professor Taliep has been fun too.
Hey, first of all, nobody ever told me I was based on a female. I may have approached this character completely different. This is a heck of a thing to find out this far into my life. You know what I'm saying?
See, this is why you guys need to RP.
Yes. Yeah, don't get us started on that.
We've talked about this on other shows that we've been on, but when we originally envisioned the idea, we're trying to give equal time between Horde and Alliance on the show. So Eamon Wetbranch is our dwarven reporter who is out with the 7th Legion in Kultiris and Zandalar, and he gives war reports. But we wanted to give a more even-handed perspective. So Rizhak the Goblin showed up on the show, and I had originally a very different view of the character. I pictured him much more like a Archie Bunker foil for Toshmifune's character. And Taliep very correctly pointed out, she said, no, that's going to play out real fast. That's a one-trick pony. So she said, why don't you let me write the character of Rizhak? And she didn't necessarily tell me in the beginning that she was going to base it on one of her RP characters, but her skill at RP really comes out because when she hands me the script, from the moment she handed me Rizhak, he was fully alive on the page, and all I had to do was give him this voice, obviously based on the goblin voices in the game, but his personality was all there, and she brought Rizhak to life.
Well, I think you bring him to life with your voice.
Well, it's a co-working thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And collaborating on the show is just a ton of fun. We don't always agree with everything. Like I was going to make a decision about one particular character on the story, and Taliep, should I say? So the character of Daolin, who is the partner now, she's a female Pandaren. She's a Shadow Pan, member of the Shadow Pan. Her and the Draenei Velmic are now they're partners, and they have a family with this little orphan human girl in the story. Originally, my plan for Daolin was to kill her, to have her die in the war. And, and Velmic was, obviously, emotionally involved with her, this kind of thing. And I said, hey, how about, because we established her character, we established that she was deploying with the 7th Legion. And I said, boy, wouldn't it be really dramatic for her to die? And Taliep said, yeah, that doesn't seem to go along with the tone of our show at all.
No, that got very dark very quickly.
So I think in the, obviously it was the right decision not to kill her, but I'm kind of like George R.R. Martin, grim, right? I want to kill a Stark somewhere out there. I'm going to kill a Stark.
Sooner or later, he's going to do that.
Somebody's going to die on the show at some point. I just don't know who.
I know that's going to happen.
A bit like Russian roulette.
That's Halloween. Yeah.
Well, that's something that will be, keep us all on the edge of our seat.
Yeah, you're fair warned now.
Oh, I love it. I just love the creativity so much. What would you say is really the biggest challenge? Like when you started podcasting, you felt, oh, this is something that could potentially become difficult because of technical things or creativity, or if you'd have to pick one thing, what would you think that could sometimes push people away from podcasting?
I think it's the time that goes into it. All of us have limited time, and Toshi and I have limited time together because, we don't live together. And so we have to decide how we want to spend our limited hours. Mm-hmm. And it takes up, quite a few, the better part of a Saturday when we do it. So I think at some point that could become a challenge. It isn't now, because we're really enjoying it. But if anything, I think maybe that would be the stumbling block. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say, and of course, I don't want, by saying that, I mean, we're a weekly podcast, right? There are certainly podcasts that do, once every 2 weeks or whatever the frequency is. But if you're going to do a weekly podcast, I think consistency and having it out at the, same day, roughly the same time every week is really important, because as a podcast listener, excuse me, and I listen to a ridiculous number of podcasts, not only Blizzard, but Blizzard related, but lots of other kinds of podcasts. There are podcasts that I just simply stopped following. I unsubscribed to because they were so inconsistent. Mm-hmm. And I think audiences have an expectation that if you're going to put out a podcast, if they enjoy it, if they like it, if it's not there on a consistent basis, they're going to get frustrated and just stop, unsubscribe. Say, I'm not going to bother having this on my list because it never updates. But at the same time, I don't want that to discourage any podcasters who might want to take a flyer, because who knows? I mean, you could hit on the magic formula. You could be the next, Welcome to Night Vale, or, Serial, or whatever. You could be the next huge thing. You just never know. So, allocate the amount of time that you think that you have and go out and do it. And whatever you're going to do it on a consistent basis, pick whatever frequency you're going to release at, and based on your time availability, and do that. But yeah, that is probably the one thing in the beginning that people say, oh, it's a lot of time, but the benefits are amazing. I mean, we've gotten to meet so many amazing, wonderful members of the community that time trade-off is more than pays for itself.
That's really good. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
So let's bring it back to Battle for Azeroth. Expansion has been out for a while now. What would you say you personally are the most impressed with in Battle for Azeroth? And if you have to pick something that you're not so impressed with, which would you pick?
Well, for me, it's the visuals. I love all of the new zones. I think, they're all beautiful. The color palettes are just amazing. If you kind of, blur it out and just look at the colors, their artists are just so amazing. I suppose they have the resources to get really good people, and it definitely shows. I've always loved questing. Questing has always been my favorite part of the game. And I think the quests in this expansion have just been so diverse, and lots of times they'll have a quest mechanic that's very elaborate, and you only see it in one quest, and it doesn't pop up again. And I suppose they're testing things for, the further expansions. But I really, really enjoyed the new ones that they've come up with for both world quests. And for the assaults too, they put in new mechanics for the assaults. So I've really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that one quest that we just did last night, and in Aram's stand in Drustvar.
Mm-hmm.
That was, you were going to talk about that one. That one was a blast.
Yeah, they give you a rocket to jump up, and then a goblin glider so you can sail a little bit to get up on the roof to get the objects that you need to get.
Yeah.
And I don't recall them ever putting those two things together like that. And it's great fun learning how to use them effectively. Just something new. The thing that I'm least impressed with is their handling of professions. I also like doing professions, and that whole gating of profession items behind dungeons is sort of really disappointing to me, because I don't care much for doing dungeons, but I really like doing professions. And it doesn't actually make me do more dungeons. It just means I do less professions. So I'm kind of disappointed in that, and I wish they'd stop doing it.
Yeah, that is a shame.
I wouldn't mind a long quest line. I don't mind grinding for it. I don't mind any of that kind of thing, but I don't like being forced into doing dungeons.
No, that's understandable, I think. What about you, Toshi?
Yeah, as far as that goes, I'll take them in reverse order, least impressed with. I think I understand the decision that Blizzard was trying to make there. I mean, that when you talk to people, what has kept you in Warcraft all these many years at this point, what has kept you in the game? And the answer has consistently been community.
Mm-hmm.
So they're trying to drive more of that community experience. So whether you do it via pugs or via guilds or a group of friends, cross-realm type activity, whatever, they're just trying to kind of drive, sort of force that behavior. Well, as with any kind of forced community behavior, if it doesn't originate organically, people are just going to be resentful of it. It's like awkward office parties, right? It's like, well, I don't really, and by the way, anybody that I work with, please don't take this personally, but, those sort of, you can't, that has to arise organically. That can't you can't force that. And so for them to gate certain profession, like, what is it? Title. It's not Expulsum. It's one of the other.
Hydrocore.
I have all of the ingredients to make some pretty good gear, some pretty good male gear, but so far I haven't done any dungeons where I've gotten any of those mats. And so that's frustrating for me. The other thing that it's less frustration and more kind of disappointment is Azerite power and the whole, that whole Azerite approach. I didn't mind grinding for artifact power because it made a difference. Even when the numbers got really ridiculous out towards the end of the last expansion, then you're, the numbers look like the national debt number for the United States. I mean, it was ridiculous. But I didn't mind doing it because it made a difference either in, cosmetically or in its power or whatever. But with this Azerite power, if you're primarily a PvE quester, and once you've filled up your rings on your Azerite empowered gear, getting additional Azerite power, at least in my perception, doesn't appear to make really much of a difference. So it's probably something that's more important for raiders, and progression raiders and that kind of thing. But for me, as for the way we play, I would stop short of calling us filthy casuals because we pretty much play every day. But it's just not something that's impressed me. Mm-hmm. Most impressed, story. I'm a writer, I'm a storyteller, by nature, and the stories in this expansion are just amazing. We just finished up, I know we're a little late, but we just finished up the Jaina Proudmoore quest line to prepare ourselves to do Siege of Borealis. And all the feels. Oh my goodness gracious. I don't want to spoil it. I don't know. Can you spoil that at this point?
I think we are at that point now that people, if you don't want to listen, then just fast forward a little.
Yes, yeah, blow the spoiler horn. But to see Jaina as a child going around and dealing with this just deep, dark depression and being confronted by the ghosts of her father and of Kindi and of all these other people that have died, and Arthas. Holy cow, heart-wrenching. And so yeah, story. That's been the thing that's impressed me the most. And I honestly think getting Christy Golden on the on the writing team and being part of that whole story crafting obviously is just wonderful. It's my favorite part of it.
Yeah, I think that was a really, really good step of them. And I think, story is the basis of any game at a certain point. If only to level that you see something that's going on. And other people love their rating, but even so, without story, it's a bit bland.
Yep. Agreed. Because otherwise, it's just running around and shooting stuff.
Exactly. You can do that in other games.
Yeah, there's plenty of other stuff for that.
Exactly. So there's been a lot of controversy with 8.1 coming out, and some people are not that happy at the moment. But maybe you guys have really good tips for the listeners regarding BFA. Maybe people have missed something or just maybe need to shift their focus. So if you have any tips for anyone playing the game at the moment, what would it be regarding BFA?
So as a Pandaren, I would say, slow down. Life is to be savored. It's, as I was touching on before, that there's so much story. Do all the side quests. Enjoy the stories. If the raids aren't quite what you want them to be, if your spec isn't quite dialed in the way you want it to be, slow down and enjoy. I'm a big fan of the small stories. That's kind of what drove the ethos of the Halfhill Report. There was an old podcast, hasn't been around for quite some time now, and it was called Azeroth Less Traveled. Mm-hmm. And the creator of that podcast, holy cow, the name is blowing right out of my head right now. I'm sure a listener will know.
Is it Skolnick?
It was Skolnick. You're right. Thank you. It was Skolnick. That really explored the small stories and the little known stuff, the little hidden away features. Go and enjoy those things if you can dial it back a little bit and look for the Easter eggs. The Easter eggs are rampant and abundant. I've got a little list here if you don't mind if I read like some of my favorite ones. There's a quest called Gadgets and Gizmos, which is a clear reference to a line from a song in The Little Mermaid. There is a character named Doc Martens, which is obviously referencing the shoes. There's a Sergeant Calvin and a Captain Hobbs. Are you kidding? Calvin and Hobbs? I almost died when I read that. I used to have a pair of cats. I had two cats that were half siblings that I named Calvin and Hobbs. So that one, and then these particular reference. This one killed me because it came up. It's a pair of quests called Run for the Hills and War Pigs. Run for the Hills is a song by Iron Maiden, and War Pigs is the title of an album by Black Sabbath. And the reason these two quests came up in my least favorite. I love Storm Song Valley. Fine, people want to call it Pandaria Part 2 or Farmville or whatever they want to call it, but there is a section in Storm Song Valley called the Briarback Crawl. Oh my God, I hate that area so much. And so to have those two quests come out Run for the Hills and War Pigs, when we saw those, I laughed hysterically. I thought that's pretty obscure. Somebody was really paying attention.
It's really fun questing with him because he sees all those things that I would go right over my head, and he points them out to me. So I get a lot more out of the game questing with him.
That's really good.
Yeah, I have my own personal tour guide. And I absolutely agree with him in terms of tips. I'm really puzzled by people who sort of rush through all the questing to get to 120 in 3 days, and then, get to the end game and then say 2 weeks later, I have nothing to do. I mean, they've wasted all of that content that the developers have put so much into. And I don't understand that at all. I'm certainly never in a position of being bored because I never managed even to finish all of the quests.
That's not a bad thing to always have something still there.
And then the last tip I'll throw in is choose your hearth location wisely. Whether you're playing Horde or Alliance, you can, because of the traveling around with the flight master's whistles and stuff like that is easier and better until we get flight, which, by the way, I'm in no hurry for. I know a lot of people are, give us flying. Well, I'm enjoying seeing the world from the ground level. And once you get the flight master's whistles, well, you might as well have flying. But choose your hearth location wisely. Pick something central where you're going to go back to. Like for us, we principally hearthed in Snug Harbor on the Alliance side. As we were progressing up through it from 110 to 120, we were kind of picking the area that we were questing in, picking an inn there and hearthing. But once you've hit 120, be smart about your hearth location, because otherwise traveling can get a little bit tedious.
Yeah, and I think the game is sometimes with certain quests progressing the story only after 120. It will ask you to go back to Kalimdor or the Eastern Kingdoms, or it's probably a good thing, because I don't know if you guys did that, but I got rid of my Dalaran Hearthstone at a certain point, and I thought,
what?
I did it in the beginning. I thought, I don't need to go there anymore, and then later on, I thought, actually, I kind of want that.
Well, I think I got a spare one lying around. I'm sure we could negotiate a decent price for it.
Luckily, I could get one back, but it was just that, yeah. Now I use all of them, even the Garrison one I still use, just because.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I can't go back to my Garrison. At this point, my Garrison is like, it's like a rental property that you haven't maintained properly, and you're just like embarrassed to go there now.
I know that feeling. I just use it like, at least, I can go wherever I needed to go from here.
Yeah.
It's one of those things. No, I completely agree. Now, a big one, and we've already talked a little bit about Warcraft community in regards to the podcast community, but what has the Warcraft community meant to the both of you?
The community is the reason that the game is fun. Taliep and I play as partners. We play together, when for time schedules or whatever, Taliep is very good about going off and solo playing, but I just kind of listlessly kick around. I go, well, this isn't any fun. So for me, the community, playing in a group, whether it's the Wednesday night North American group, shout out to the North American group, it's that personal engagement that really makes the game fun. And as I said, we talked about earlier, since we started podcasting, our community, our connection to the community has grown, and that means everything.
I know a lot of people don't enjoy it, but I really love watching trade chat and general chat. I think it's because I'm a sociologist. I just get such a kick out of all of the stuff that goes on in there.
Oh my God, we will be traveling around and playing, and all of a sudden she'll start giggling or saying something. What are you talking about? It's like, oh, in trade chat. I'm like, I don't even see it.
Yeah, I try not to watch it when I'm playing with Toshi because I really try to concentrate on what we're doing, but it just grabs me sometimes. I mean, people are so outrageous, and the topics range from the most mundane, silliest stuff to world events, and the things about how people react to gender. And last night there was this whole awful section on racial slurs. I mean, it was just awful.
She's saying this, she's laughing, and she's saying, oh my God, it was just awful. I'm like, oh, gross.
It's just really interesting to just kind of catch that glimpse into people's lives. Like I say, the sociologist, I can't help it. But that's a part I really enjoy. And then, of course, all the nice people that I met in guilds over the years. So many just really helpful and friendly people who just really go out of their way to make your experience more pleasant. I just want to do a little shout out to our current Alliance Guild is Dark Tide, wonderful people there.
Yes.
And then Gilded Lotus on the Horde side, Zerba's Guild. And again, just, people who just, if you say you need something, I mean, there's like 4 people right there saying, how can we help? It's just really, really amazing.
Well, that's always good. I think now that I've finally found a guild again. I completely agree. That almost makes or breaks the game, I think, nowadays.
Yeah.
Right, final question for tonight. And this is always a bit of a difficult one, what is your whisper? So for those who are unfamiliar with what the whisper is, it could be fairy crafting, it could be a bit of a rumor spreading thing that you want to put out there, or something that you might be hoping for that they will put in game, or anything relating to that. So what would you say your whisper is?
I really, really, really hope that Sylvanas does not turn out to be the big bad in the expansion, that she'll be vindicated somehow, at least on the eyes of the Horde players, that her actions and behavior will become understandable and something that people can come to respect her again, because I just think she's just one of the best characters, and I would sort of hate to lose her to that dark side. I cling to the hope, I think Vol'jin picked her for a reason, and I'm really, really hoping that they will play out that aspect of the story. And we've already mentioned this, but since it's my other wish is about gating the professions, I really hope that they will stop doing that.
Yeah, and I was going to, I'm going to piggyback off of Taliep, that Sylvanas is such a nuanced villain, and her story and her journey to the point that where she is, that while what she has done is just reprehensible. I mean, the burning of the World Tree was just, oh God, it's the worst thing imaginable. So I'm not sure that redemption is entirely possible, but it would make for a very interesting story. What I really, really, really want is a third faction. I don't want them to do away with the factions. I think that makes the game interesting. But a third faction, I'm fascinated by the idea of an insurgency. So something within either the Taurens on the Horde side or Saurfang, and they seem to be moving that way now on the Horde side, with the players making a choice between Sylvanas and Saurfang. But now all of a sudden one or the other faction finds itself not only at war with the Horde or the Alliance externally, but dealing with an insurgency within their own faction. I think that would be fascinating, and I would rush to join that kind of a faction. I think that would be really, really interesting from a storytelling standpoint. Or just a truly unaligned race, or that where you could play, and I don't know whether that comes out as a new race or an option for new tunes to truly play as an unaligned character. And I see them, ranging somewhere between lawful to chaotic neutral on the alignment scale. Maybe it's a race and a class like mercenaries, right? Who basically just, whoever's got the most money. I don't really have a dog in the fight on either of this. So whoever's willing to pay me the most, which could make for some interesting, I just thought of this, could make for some interesting gameplay in terms of, like, right now, in order to, on the war fronts, you have to go gather resources, right, to make that switch over. Well, what if part of that resource gathering was actually engaging a mercenary, a group of mercenaries, but mercenaries not made up of NPCs, but made up of players. And I think that,
cool.
Yeah, wouldn't it though? Holy cow! Would you just go run off to join that?
That'd be so cool.
My God, Rizak's going to go off and start his own Blackwater.
I love it. I love it.
I see profit. I see profit in this.
Yeah.
No, I like that. I like that idea a lot, and it gives so many possibilities for RP, for quests, for just game. That would be really, really interesting. I like that idea a lot.
Are you listening, Blizzard?
Here's hoping. I'm crossing my fingers and my toes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you both so much for taking the time, because I really, really enjoyed having you on, and I know that I've kept you for quite a while here. So if people want to find out more about you guys and your podcast, of course, where can they find you?
Well, the Halfhill Report, you can get it wherever you find, wherever you get your podcast, whether it's iTunes or the Apple Podcast app or whatever the equivalent is on Android, Stitcher. We're pretty much out on every podcast platform out there. If you want to link directly and go directly to the show, it's halfhillreport.podbean.com. You can reach us on Twitter at Halfhill Report, all one word, all strung together. And you can reach me personally at Toshmifune1 on Twitter. And you can email us at halfhillreport@yahoo.com. Okay.
All of the above plus P Taliep on Twitter. P is for perfect, but they wouldn't let me spell that out.
P is for practically perfect in every way.
Aww.
And we actually launched something new, inspired by another podcaster out there, Thunk the Peon. And we linked into Curious Cat. And it's a very interesting little social media platform, if you're not familiar with it, where you just put up and people can ask questions. And it's really kind of short form questions. And so if people want to ask Toshmifune or Professor Taliep a question that if you listen to the show, one of the running gags on the show is Toshi gets letters from listeners. We do it at the top of every show. And he never actually answers the questions. We've been doing that for a whole year now, and somehow he finds a way to not answer the question. So send a question into Curious Cat and enjoy seeing how Toshi figures out how to respond without actually answering the question.
I like that. I might have to look into that, see if I can come up with a question. No, I like that.
Do. We would love to have you submit a question.
I will give it some thought. Thank you both for being such amazing guests. I really, really love talking to you.
Well, thank you for having us on the show.
Yeah, it's been fun. A lot of fun.
And remember, free Pandaria.
I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let's just jump into the sort of topic of this week, which was, which podcast do you really... It was more about podcasts, but I wanted to know which podcast you guys really enjoyed, because it's good to discover new ones out there. So let's go to all your replies on Twitter. Fabry said, yours, of course. Thank you, Fabry. But he continues, other than that, Lorewatch covers lore from all Blizzard games, but most of the time they focus on WoW, and from time to time drop awesome fairies. I have to agree, I really, really enjoy Lore Watch, so I would definitely check that one out, guys. Einar Schelling, I hope I say that correctly, said, I really enjoy the Starting Zone. They are incredibly informative and well structured, easy format to listen to, and wonderful hosts. I also warmly recommend Halfhill Report. It's very different from most podcasts, in-character radio show, and is lovely to listen to. Well, I couldn't agree more. On both fronts, really. Wizard Life Studio said, I wish Horde for Life would come back. Horde for Life podcast really liked that one. It was smart, real people discussing ideas, not a podcast full of attention-seeking people made for kids with fake hype. So that is really interesting. I didn't even, because I used to listen to Horde for Life, but then, I stopped listening to podcasts and I unsubscribed to lots of them until I started coming back. But yeah, that's one that I couldn't find anymore. I didn't know that they quit. That's really, really sad. Yeah, that's a shame that some of the ones that from that time that podcasts were really out there that have quit. That's a shame. Okay. Grand Negus. Since I love lore in the Warcraft universe, I love the Lore Watch by the Blizzard Watch people. Also with regards to community podcasts, even though they are an alliance side thing, I love to listen to Convert to Raid. Yeah, I love Lore Watch as well. And Convert to Raid, I think it's great having such a big alliance guild out there. That's always good. Always good. Even though I am Horde for the moment. Like a Wolf, here are a few of mine, even though some are retired now. Hunting Party Podcast. First WoW podcast I started listening to. Sheep Moon, the forum guardian that would tell it to your face. There's nothing wrong with that. I like people who tell it to your face. Warcraft Trolls, Megan's Never-Ending Stories. Justice Points, How to Understand Feminism 101 and How to Practice Social Equality. Low Pop WoW, for players like myself that played on low pop servers. And final one, Girls Gone WoW. I love Sil. I mean, 3 red ladies chatting it up, making us feel you were all in the same room. Oh, thank you. And now it's 2 gorgeous ladies who do that. But yeah, it's like I said to Taliep, it's nice hearing that people really, really did and still are enjoying Girls Gone WoW. I think that's one of the proudest achievements I've ever had creating that one. So I'm very happy that it's still going, with the wonderful EJ and Raven, of course. Professor Taliep said, Girls Gone WoW is the first gaming podcast I listen to and still my favorite. Raven and EJ always make me laugh with their tales of horses and cats, and I learn a lot about playing Warcraft from hearing about their gameplay. Always gems to pick up from their chat. Absolutely agree with that. Falamoya Krava said, maybe a bit biased, but genuinely love the Blue Recluse. Also a huge fan of Frazzlecast and Snacks Are Off for the food. Oh, and why? Well, the Blue Recluse is kind of my one-stop shop for all things Blizzard. They tell me everything I need to know concisely and clearly with lots of humor and banter. Frazzlecast is so awesome because he always has interesting guests on, lots of chat, laughter and fun. I've always genuinely enjoyed listening to his show. Plus his community and supportive attitude are amazing. I love this gnome. And Snacks Are Off, obviously because they need good snacks because you need good snacks for a long gaming session. Well, that and not Michael Hyde's voice makes me feel like I'm entering some awesome sporting event. Hashtag for the food. Hey, Michael, if you need to switch careers, then maybe you should start covering sports events because, yeah, I think she's absolutely right with that. So it's really cool that you guys mentioned so many, and I will have to check some of these out because some of them I kind of forgot about, I'll be honest. I forgot that they were there, and I'm going to check them out if they're still there. So, yeah, thank you for all of that, and, just go and browse for more podcasts because I think we need some podcasts every day, don't we? I think so. I think it makes working, at least for me, a lot more fun listening to the podcast. So that's it. I'm starting to ramble because my brain is starting to leak out of my nose. I know it's very, very... That's a lovely little image I'm giving to you. And my voice is starting to really, really get deep and my throat's hurting. So, it's not a good day. Not a good day. But thank you so much for downloading the podcast. And I'm hoping that by Friday, everything will be fine again and I can upload at normal times. So have a lovely time in Azeroth, guys, and I will see you next week to see if I got any, horrible messages from that guild. I ninja quit. Bye.